10 minutes at the conclusion of the program, I want to talk about some of the ideas that many of us in our network have to survive what is heading towards us. And I want to just talk about some of the things right now that we have to look for and look at. Many of you know that the WHO has threatened to remove family members from homes, and that Dr. Michael Ryan, the executive director of the World Health Organization, recently explained to the world that due to the coronavirus health pandemic, governments around the world would need to start knocking on doors of households.
So think about this. They give you, and this is just pure imagination, me thinking, whatever. They inject you with a V. It lays dormant in your body, I guess, for however long. And then maybe when your immune system gets, too low, even if I don't know. I mean, even at this point, is that could all be a lie too. So who knows? But they inject you years ago. Maybe it has something to do with the cycles or the way that what time we're in. I don't know. Whatever. Either way, it's happening. But they inject us. Wait a couple years, and now are going to forcibly lock us down. But do you see how they problem, action, solution, I think that's what it is. Or yeah, you cause the problem, you think of the solution, and then you make the solution. You become the savior. But if that's what they did, I mean, let's think how sick that is. Just think about that.
And removing family members by force and isolating them. This is child theft. This is family theft. This is chaos. And we're going to talk about how this was done back in history in a little bit here. But a comment about that and a quote, now we need to go and look in on families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them. So pursuant to the WHO, which again is not a purveyor of health, it is an organization run by the controlling top 1% of the 1%. Pursuant to the WHO, Oregon Department of Health is to remove children from a home if a parent is infected with coronavirus. And this is on behalf of the World Health Organization, the WHO. And what they're saying is that the executive director, again, Michael Ryan, and he's in Oregon, he's slated to remove children from homes and place them in substitute care when parents are deemed unable to support them.
That just screams child kidnapping, but they're giving you a reason. Sorry, we got to take your children. And they get brought to the underground bases. They get their ass tortured and drained of their own life force because these nasty, sick beings that aren't human want it. Crazy, right?
This is child theft. This is how they're doing it. They're harvesting our children based on a lie. They go on to say that governments will go door to door looking for people infected with coronavirus, and if found, now we need to go and look in and find those family members so that may be sick and remove them and isolate them. So this is, again, the chaos that is going to become the door-to-door separation of families. This is truly war. Now, I'm looking at another document, and I will not go through it completely with all of you now, but it is from the World Economic Forum, and it is from the Frontier 2030, the Fourth Industrial Revolution for Global Goals platform. And they define global goals as being sustainable development goals. And Microsoft is involved in all of this. Microsoft is involved. So is PricewaterhouseCoopers. And what they're telling us in these technology sustainable development goals is that technology is going to be used to bring in sustainable development for the entire world. And we can see that happening now. We know that sustainable development are lawless corporations and statutes, and they're based upon fraudulent science, creating target dates for cities to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and more, aka CO2 emissions, to prevent climate change. And we already know that over 31,000 American and Russian scientists both stated that they could reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 100% and that it would have no effect on the climate. In fact, CO2 is necessary for all life on the planet, or the planet would perish. Now, the federal and state governments are not real. They are privately owned corporations called governments. The judges are privately employed administrators called judges, and the law is nothing more than their corporate regulations called statutes. All laws created by these government corporations are private corporate regulations called public law or statutes, codes, and ordinances to conceal their true nature. Now,
I love this woman.
I want to talk about many things on the program, but I want to go back in time because we're always hearing the quote, history repeats itself. The only difference, by and large, with the history that I'm going to talk about back in 1977 is that we have weapons systems that were not fully disclosed in 1977, albeit there was weather control, or as they call it, geoengineering and weather modification, which is the deliberate large-scale manipulation of the Earth's climate. And we're going to talk about that because we have a very dire fire warning for the entire western United States after we go over a bit of history and how it repeats itself. Now, I'm going to go over what happened in this event in 1977, and it's going to sound very similar to what is happening now. There were mass detentions and hunger. Now, the mass detentions now here are to shelter in place. This is a detention. We are all being constrained. That is what has occurred. Massive hunger and joblessness and unemployment rates are skyrocketing. Businesses are collapsing worldwide. The economy is tanking completely. And this is through detention, taking of jobs, creating hunger. And I can say that when you see these soup kitchens going in around your communities to feed those that no longer have food, that's, of course, to take the edge off so that worldwide we're not seeing the massive hunger that's intentionally being created right now.
And that's exactly what the food shortages and everything else, man. It's dang it. Oh, okay. Just making sure I was recording. Shoot, I was about to be mad. But that's what I mean by they're hitting us at every angle. Can't you see that they're inducing the end, so to speak? Or at least the end of the world that we know, that we were all born into, who are alive right now. Because what's about to come is on some whole other stuff. It's terrifying to think about. It really is.
Now, and back in 1977, that's also what was done. They took photographs while soup kitchens were feeding the children so that the world would not see the enormity of the hunger. They were in a state of siege. We are in a state of siege, controlled by fear, and so were they. They could not meet in groups of more than 8 back then in 1977. We're not allowed to meet in groups either, and we're supposed to social distance by 6 feet. And families disappeared, and families were separated. I was just talking about families being separated because of COVID, the same thing. People back then felt there was no future. Their futures had been taken. Math professors and other teachers and other doctors literally lost all their jobs, and in order to eke out a very meager living, they sought minor monies from road repair. Their self-esteem was diminished, and they were talking about how they're living in a most painful hour. We are also all living in a most painful hour in our history. They talked about how there were informers everywhere. There are informers everywhere here now in the United States and beyond. See something, say something. Take pictures of non-compliance. Send them to your local code enforcement and report what you see. This is what is happening now in the United States. This is a repressive, deadly dictatorship. Also, back in 1977, they reduced the resources to the cities, and they reduced water access and electricity access. We are having water reduced and rationing soon. This is all part of the Sustainable Development Goals, are to reduce all resources. We are not to use resources more than our vital needs, and anything beyond vital needs is considered immoral.
Now you see how they do that? How they're doing that with the food. California is having a water shortage, which is a bunch of bullshit. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes sense as far as they're destroying the distribution with food, and they're forcing farmers to destroy all the food on purpose. Doesn't look like they're not holding them down saying you got to destroy it, but the way that they have control of this whole machine we call reality, they're able to, flip this switch, and turn that one off and make shit happen, because they have control of everything. They just make a couple laws, pass a couple bills, and do this and put this into place, and that you have yourself your own narrative, you know what I mean? And nobody sees it. Well, some people see it.
Also, they talked about how 40% back in 1977 were unemployed, and consistent struggle for survival. This is what we're seeing now here with the absolutely astronomical, intentional unemployment that has occurred here in the United States and worldwide. Back then, they had 20% unemployment, and the controllers needed this inhumane system so that they would be safe, and those that were being suppressed were never safe. Back then, too, they talked about, as I mentioned, the soup kitchens to ward off starvation, to protect the regime from the outrage and starvation that would be seen if they weren't giving people food. I alluded to that a moment or two ago. That's what we're seeing here now, so that we won't see the devastating ramifications of those that are hungry. They were caught in a web of a police state back in 1977. We are but even worse. And they talked about how strong should destroy the weak. And the process, mass repression. Interesting, back in 1977, and I'll tell you where this was when I finish in a moment, but people were able to earn $66 per month. I want you to think about $66 per month. The retired people were barely able to survive on their $33 per month. Those are Illuminati numbers. Make no mistake. They were undermining the dignity of all men, women, and children. And so, as in the cities, so was in the country under land reforms. They literally stole the land from 250,000 people who failed to collect enough points. They weren't able to participate in farming the lands. They were tossed off the lands. They were all commenting back in 1977 that they had gone back 40 years. And strong destroy the weak. No work, no money, no food. We did not speak up. And if we did not speak up, nothing would have ever been done. It was a rule of terror, a vicious rule of terror. We're all in that now. Make absolutely no mistake. We're in a rule of terror. I want to also tell you what I found in a recent document from the World Bank, and this is just horrific, and I also found this out of the Rockefeller Foundation as well. They said that the COVID-19 pandemic has placed a spotlight on the failure of the American dream, geared towards rapid tracking and predicting the direction of a pandemic, and governments track how they are responding and managing their response. They say that families are facing economic collapses and challenges. The COVID-19 pandemic has again placed a spotlight on the failure of the American dream. 40% of Americans lack $400 in savings to address emergencies. Nearly 40 million Americans struggle with food insecurity, with 30 million school children across the country relying on school meals for subsistence twice a day. So, in 1977, this dictatorship was as a result of the Reagan administration collapsing intentionally the Chilean government and replacing the Chilean government with a military strong arm, General Pinochet. And this is about the Chilean revolution. And we are in a revolution right now. I was just told last week that there is a new disease. It's the disease of despair. And I can tell you, Big Pharma will find, certainly they will find suppressive medications so that we can ride through the culling and the intentionality of this collapse upon the United States now and worldwide. Now, Pastor Butch talked about how the CARE Act was literally in place a year prior to it even coming to light. So were many documents that told us what was going to happen to this country prior. Everything has been a script. It's like writing a script for a movie. You have to have a script in order for the movie and all the actors to conduct what they're trying to portray. I have a most important video up on stopthecrime.net, and I would wish that everybody please listen to it. It is called COVID Lockdown, Global Bankruptcy, a Plan. Again, go to stopthecrime.net. Go to the video YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Listen to this video carefully. It it explains the Rockefeller Foundation prescript writing scenario planning of this pandemic and what would ensue when we were brought to our knees as we are now. We face such a massive transition as a result of this intentional takedown, beyond what any of us can contemplate, hence the disease of despair.
So get it out of your head that we're just going to sit back and we're just going to watch Q tell who's all getting arrested, and like, it's a bunch of bullshit. Like, if y'all can't see past that, then something's wrong. You know, and I'm not knocking you for it, because obviously where I'm at in my life, there's some things that I can't see yet. And people are probably watching my videos and saying the same thing. So I know we're all on different pages, but it would be so beneficial if we were all on the same page. Or at least close, you know what I mean?
I want to continue with something very, very important. It is a massive fire warning for the western United States. And, of course, many of you know that I live about an hour north of San Francisco in Sonoma County. And we have had fires, massive loss of housing, massive loss of life from 2017, 2018, and 2019. We all suffer from the smoke, which is also a weapon. Also, you know that Australia was burning too. Many areas worldwide were and will be on fire. This is the plan. You
see how I remember I said in a previous video that they're going to hit us with everything? Economy collapsing, food shortages, maybe EMP, blackouts, whatever. And you got this pandemic we're going with, you know, mass death, mass chaos, insects, different. Now these bees are coming in, and they ain't going to be the last. It's going to be boom, 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 boom. You know, the more and more we get into this, because they're going to keep turning the heat up. I'm telling you. It's almost like I've already been through this or something, and I'm getting all the feelings back or something. It's the most weirdest feeling in the world, but I guess it's more so like seeing it, you know what I mean? Maybe not completely, because I'm not claiming to be some, you know, person who knows all, because I don't. What? I mean, some chaos is about to ensue.
Get sprayed by heavy overhead aerial death dumps with chemicals, with strontium, barium, and aluminum, and not have fires that are accelerated by these heavy metals and more. As they rage through our homes and through our communities and burn us out. Now, I want to go over this. This, again, is an alert. It's a fire warning to all. There are plans to burn us up from 2020 and beyond, and how we must prepare. We do have a video up on stopthecrime.net. It's called Fire Community Meeting. Please look through our recent videos and take a look at that. We were talking with a 30-year retired fire captain that was giving us ways in which we could survive on our properties when fires were in our counties. Now, of course, this does not mean you stay on your property when the fire is coming down on you, because there are many, sadly, components to fires now that none of us could have ever imagined. None of us. Lots of new technology that is now certainly part of the embers that are coming down on people as well. Nanobots, hived nanobots, electric nanobots, and embers, and more. But to the traditional fire that comes down and burns us, I have a YouTube up, and I actually thought of Pastor Butch when I named it. It's called Fire fires. This is war. And it's a 15-minute video that's up on stopthecrime.net. We are walking through the last burn zone here in Sonoma County of the Kincaid fire. We were being tracked and monitored while we were walking through that war zone. And I would certainly ask for everybody to take a look at this. Our trees are burning from the inside out because of the heavy metals that the small roots have been taking up. You can think of it as a...
Yeah, but you got to think of it... I don't know, it's just... I guess now I'm getting the satisfaction of putting in so much time of listening and retaining to see the steps, and not all of them, but I'm saying, chemtrails came out and everybody's like, oh my god, it's so bad, it's killing us, and this and that, blah blah blah. And yeah, it is true, but I guess at that point we were so caught on us. People were thinking, I'm sure, about what it was going to do to the atmosphere, to the ecosystem and shit, the nature and everything. To the point where it was just a setup for what was about to come. And that's why, more and more of what's happening right now is also the setup of what's about to come, because you see how it goes so smoothly, and they don't have to like boom out of nowhere. It's just military's on the streets and the guns up and everything's guns ablazing. No, it's always nice and clean, because they turn this switch on so that they can turn this switch on, and then allows them to do whatever they need to do, so to speak. It's just sickening.
Bad case of cholesterol and heart disease, but these trees explode from the inside out. The majority of our trees are standing dead. They are standing dead. This is why there's that huge effort to replant trees. Well, there's no point in replanting trees that are continually sprayed on daily, or however often they are in your community, with the overhead aerial chemtrailing. Certainly our meteorologists lie to us when they report the weather. They lie. They're not meteorologists. They are reporting from the Rothschild script of weather making. This is what is happening. So this fire warning to all, the plans to burn us up from 2020 and beyond and prepare, goes like this. And I found this and a document as well. On April 18th of 2020, it was an article in the Washington Post. And it says, Southwest faces first human-caused mega drought. Now they're talking about anthropogenic global warming. Too many people using too much stuff, and we've caused climate change. Now, for everybody that has heard, of course, climate change is the result of weather weapon technologies that are being used upon us and then being reconfigured into the vocabulary of climate change, natural climate change. It is not. It is a weapons system.
See what I'm saying, though? How they do this to do that, and then it makes this happen so that they can do this. Like, that's what I mean by trying to keep ahead, but, it's hard to keep ahead when they're not telling you anything, or they're telling you way, which, of course, we're not going to know, but that's why we need people on the inside to stand up and you know what? We gotta start saying, they gotta start saying something. They gotta stand up and make a stand before, it's a little too late, But just getting there.
So let's talk about what they're telling us about this mega drought. They're telling us that climate change study shows phenomenon is worst impact observed in the U.S. in the past 1,200 years. In the past 1,200 years. They say a vast region of the western United States, extending from California, Arizona, New Mexico, north to Oregon, Idaho, and beyond, is in the grips of the first climate change-induced. We'll pick it up on the other side.
All right, come that. Tyrants don't back down just because they know you're right. Understand that. They never have, never will. Deborah, you go ahead.
Well, that's absolutely right. And I want to continue with the southwest United States and how they're saying we're facing the first human-caused mega drought, the worst in 1,200 years. Now, they're only saying the southwest United States, but in the climate action plans that I have reviewed, and I have reviewed thousands throughout the world, fire is a commonality of climate change. And it's also a commonality of increased frequencies in areas that it increases the electrification of the environment, and it becomes highly combustible, along with the days prior to massive fires or any type of weather-related attack on us were very heavily chemtrailed. They need energy to create the energy of fire, tornadoes, certainly the rain that we have that is flooding us out. They need energy. So for all of you, you must look up, see what's in the sky, and then you can figure out that you're going to be attacked. They must sequester the energy necessary to create these assaults with the weather weapons. But let's go on into this first climate change based on human cause mega drought in 1,200 years. Here's what they said. A vast region of the western United States, extending from California, Arizona, and New Mexico, north to Oregon and Idaho, is in the grips of the first climate-induced mega drought observed in the past 1,200 years, a new study now shows. The findings mean that the phenomenon is no longer a threat to millions to worry about in the future, but it is already here. And I will tell you, these are my words, they're going to burn us out even more. They go on to say, the mega drought has emerged while thirsty. Expanding cities are on a collision course with water demands of farmers and environmental interests, posing nightmare scenarios for water managers in fast-growing states. Now, let's talk about something most important. It's called primary water. Certainly one of the most important things that all of you can do that are able to is drill and get to primary water. Please go to our website, primarywater.org, and understand what getting to primary water looks like. You'll see some videos of what it looks like. I have been on several primary water drills myself. So we need to get to water. It's up to us. Our firefighters and CAL FIRE, the heads of the fire agencies, work for the global elites. They all believe and are following the rules of sustainable development. And so with that in mind, it's important to understand those first-line responders, they may be and are often very good and decent, hard-working people, but they take orders from higher up. And we know that many of the backfires that are set that certainly create even more monstrous flames and other aspects of putting out fires with the toxic retardants. And while we're being chemtrailed, heavily sprayed overhead, we have fires raging. So let me get back to this report. This is a warning. A massive warning that I need all of you to help get out far and wide, and you need to understand how you can harden your home for fires. They say that, again, that the water demands of farmers, which is one of the reasons they're taking out the farms, because this is sustainable development. They're moving us into an entirely new food distribution system of GMO and biofoods. This is via an executive order. But they talk about how the mega drought is broadly defined as a severe drought that occurs across a broad region for a long duration, typically multiple decades. Multiple decades. They're going to throw us into a drought, tell us we have no water, and force relocation of people off of properties because they will tell them they are running out of water and it is not safe. The health departments will tell them, force them to relocate because the health departments also work for the corporate structure. It's most important, and I will remind everybody on every single show who your local health departments are. It is a corporation, and the state public health institutions are private for-profit corporations doing business. Medical clinic records are reviewed by state public health departments, which are for-profit corporations listed on Dun and Bradstreet, who receive money and compensation from the Center of Disease Control to perform their functions. The state public health departments and recommendations and actions are influenced by the fiscal health of their corporations. The CDC, this is extremely important because we're hearing about how the CDC is telling all of us worldwide how to manage this pandemic. Do not forget what I'm going to be saying to you right now. The CDC is a private, for-profit corporation doing business. The CDC is not a government health advocacy organization. It is a corporation listed on Dun and Bradstreet and headquartered in the state of Georgia. It has ties to the pharmaceutical industry. Therefore, their recommendations are influenced by the fiscal health of their corporation. Also, I want everyone to take a look at the presidential task force that you hear often, and Fauci and all of the other task force members. They are all working for the corporate structure to mandate a global vaccination upon every living person on this planet. Make no mistake. This is the goal. They're telling us here in California, our governor is telling us, if we want to get back to work fully, it's going to have to be after they have the vaccine. And they're opening up here and there a little bit, but I want to say this. Your governors are all involved in this mask charade. They're lying. They are outright being untruthful to all of us. The mayors and governors all work for the vision of sustainable development. They are perpetrators of the highest sins against mankind. I kid you not. I can't emphasize that enough. Your mayors go to conferences. They have visions for America. They're bringing them in and initiating them in each and every town everywhere. We once were going to meetings. You'll see many of the meetings that we've attended on stopthecrime.net. Now, of course, everything is no longer on site. And we were noticing in October, in November, while we had the big fire here in Northern California, the Kincaid fire, that the County Board of Supervisors offices were hardening up against the public. They were putting in bulletproof glass separations. They brought in TSA to manage the admitting people into the meetings. Now they don't even need to do that because they're not meeting in those buildings anymore. And that is also a goal. The telecommuting, education, everything was a goal. In fact, it was a worldwide impacts of ongoing IT and a revolution upon society, where in fact everything was to be and is telecommuting, teleshopping, teleentertainment, teletravel, teleeducation, telemedicine, telecommerce, telepolitics, and telesocialization. Make no mistake, these were all scripted out. When I went over many times throughout the years the NASA war plan that we have on stopthecrime.net. It is about 100 or so pages. It talked in detail about the pandemics and the way in which war would be conducted. It would be a silent weapons system of warfare using bioweapons and germ warfare and viruses and prions, etc., versus shock and awe of bullets. We've been told all of these types of attacks would occur, and they are. They are. I want to also talk about the transition from our currency. But before, well, I'll actually bring that in right now. This is most important. Many of you probably have heard about the Microsoft patent. They filed for a patent for crypto mining system using body activity data. And the last 5 numbers of their patent is 60606. That is.
You also gotta think too, this shit was in Rick and Morty. Remember when Rick and Morty went into his battery because the battery didn't have power, and they made up a big lie and had these other beings on treadmills, and I can't remember what the other one had, because it kept going into each other. Same thing, same exact thing. That's exactly what we're going into. You know, and they say that cartoons are just good. They're just cartoons. No, they're showing you stuff too, especially if it's on TV.
666. That is Microsoft. They are 666. Make no mistake. The full patent number that has been assigned to them under this request is W020200. 60606. You can just type in Microsoft Files Patent for Crypto Mining System using body activity data. And they tell us that they published a patent dubbed Cryptocurrency System using body activity data on March the 26th. This paperwork details a method of crypto mining which exploits data associated with a user's body activity to exercise a new form of proof of work. The document goes on. I won't go into it further, but I want to also tell you that IBM, who was the source of identifying prisoners in World War II, is also in the process of filing for a patent for a self-aware token to record events of offline transactions. In other words, the cryptocurrency will be equivalent to cash, and they're replacing cash so they can track and monitor every single transaction, everything we do, every move we make. We will be tracked and monitored. So the tech giant IBM, they said, was awarded a patent for the development of a self-aware token designed to record events of offline transactions, meaning where they can't track you. A patent document filed with the United States Patent and Trademark Office describes a system which relates to financial data processing in an electronic currency platform, as well as to processing e-commerce tokens, which have involved offline transactions to track and record events of offline transactions. The system incorporates a so-called self-aware token. Now, again, you can search this for yourselves. Just type in IBM secures patent for self-aware token. I also want to go over the patents that are being used as bioweapons that the United States has patented. The AIDS was a U.S. patent. H1N1 was a U.S. patent. Ebola, also a U.S. patent. The swine flu, a U.S. patent. Zika virus, a Rockefeller Foundation. SARS, a U.S. patent. Coronavirus, U.S. patent number 101-30701. Again, U.S. patent 101-30701. 701. AIDS is a U.S. patent. H1N1, also a U.S. patent. Ebola, a U.S. patent. Swine flu, and again Zika, and I mentioned SARS. So I want to say that this is a silent weapons attack on all of us. This has been planned. Our monies have been stolen from us. Us being the taxpayers, the slave payers. Now we are literally being disposed of. There's no more use for us when we're being replaced by technology and robotization and transhumanism. We are not needed. They're replacing all the gasoline, which they call fossil fuels. We'll stick with gasoline, but they're also eliminating all gasoline for cars, all propane, and wood burning and diesel. Diesel free by 33 is the mantra. They are collapsing the system. Our cars are going to be nothing more than paperweights. If you do not have supportive fuels, you do not drive your car. Hence the reason for electric cars. They need electricity on a massive scale to bring forth the technologies of absolute global control of every single thing. They need electricity, and that is why they put in the smart meter grid, and that is why they're lacing us with all of the 2, 3, 4, 5G systems. This is the future without many of us involved in this new future that's being created. So I want to continue on with what we were told a long time ago. I have a 4-part video YouTube series. I've discussed this many, many times. But before I do that, I want to just go over what the climate action plans say. In general, this is an example of a climate action plan out of Pennsylvania that I found a number of years ago. And again, I can't underscore the fact that the CDC is listed on Dun & Bradstreet, and it's a private corporation. And it's not established to serve the public or provide objective, safe policies, since the CDC's only purpose is their corporate bottom line. Now, I'm reading that again to you because I'm going to be talking about what they knew